up, all my fight fans? It's been a while. I've been out, but now I am back and I am ready to talk about some fights. I am ready to talk about UFC. I am ready to talk about UFC 300, the big one coming up this Saturday, April 13th. I cannot wait. From top to bottom, the card is stacked. From the early prelims to the prelims to the main card, we got it all stacked, and I'm about to talk with you about it all right here, right now. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, because the card is so stacked, because there's just so many fights to talk about, we're going to break this into 3 parts. We're going to talk about the early prelims, then we're going to talk about the prelims, then we're going to talk about the actual main card itself. So why don't we start with that early prelim, shall we? On the bottom, I'm sure things got shuffled around, so who knows? Maybe this is from top to bottom, but as far as I know, you got Cody Garbrandt versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Guys, I'm really excited for this fight. Really, I am. You got Cody Garbrandt. I am a big fan of Cody Garbrandt. I've always believed in him. I was always been a big fan of his fight style and such. Guys, former bantamweight champion of the world. We all know he's falling from hard times, but he's making his way up. He has 2 wins, one by decision, one by knockout. No, they're not real notable names, but at the end of the day, he is still getting his his groove back little by little. And this is probably the biggest contender that he is going to be fighting. Well, not necessarily contender, but former champion of the world, Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo, this is going to be his 2nd fight at bantamweight. His first fight was against Rob Font, and he got a unanimous decision. A very impressive win. We all know Deiveson Figueiredo was former flyweight champion of the world. Back and forth battles with Brandon Moreno. He decided to go up in weight because I guess he just could not make that weight at 125 no more. So he's walking around at that 135-pound weight limit now. So this is going to be a very fun fight, guys. So who do you think is going to win this one? Well, we all know Deiveson Figueiredo, he looked really, really good against Rob Font. And if you would go by MMA math, Rob Font actually was able to beat Cody Garbrandt, but, Deiveson Figueiredo was able to beat Rob Font. But we all know sometimes that just does not go together. Sometimes, styles make matchups, and it just doesn't work. It really doesn't. But nonetheless, if Deiveson Figueiredo, we all know he has that speed because, again, he contended at flyweight before. He's been a champion at flyweight before. He has some really, really good technique, really, really good skills. Of course, to become champion, you got to have all that. But we all know Cody Garbrandt has that power. Now, we all know Cody Garbrandt has been, his chin has been a little questionable, and his, I don't want to say his fighting style, but his ability to really control, I guess you could say, his anger or control his fighting style to where he just doesn't start unloading shots. Because that's a reason why he lost a lot of his fights in his earlier days, is because he just couldn't help himself. He could not, he wasn't fighting smart, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. Cody Garbrandt had a really bad reputation for not wanting to fight smart. As soon as he saw you hurt, he just decided to always go for that KO, and it just never really worked. He ended up getting KO'd himself. So, if now we've seen some maturity in the octagon for Cody Garbrandt, and if we could actually see that, I do believe Cody Garbrandt can get this victory no problem. He does have that power. He does have great wrestling. He does have the speed. He does have the height. He does have literally all the qualities in the bantamweight division against Deiveson Figueiredo. But that still remains to be seen, guys, really. Because Deiveson Figueiredo, he is no punk. He is somebody that's going to come in there, and he's going to want to fight, for sure. And he's going to want to make a statement that, hey, I am maybe new to this division, but I promise you, I am a threat. And he wants to definitely prove to everybody by doing that to Cody Garbrandt and getting that victory. But at the end of the day, I personally feel like Cody Garbrandt could get that win. And hopefully he does. So let's see what happens then. You also got in that early prelims, you got Jalen Turner taking on Roy Ty Marcano. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Not drawing a blank, but I can't remember that first name. But Moicano. These guys are 2 lightweights, and they're coming up some decent victories. You got Moicano. He's making a little bit of a name for himself. I think he was on a 2-fight winning streak. He did have an unfortunate loss to Rafael dos Anjos, which is no shame. Rafael dos Anjos, former lightweight champion of the world. So, at the end of the day, he's really trying to keep his name relevant in the lightweight division, where Jalen Turner, he's coming off a great knockout win over Bobby Green. Bobby Green is like, he's still on this card. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but yeah. So Jalen Turner, he's definitely making a name for himself in the lightweight division as well. He had that great fight against Dan Hooker, and a few other fights on this card as well, or a few other fights that he had in the lightweight division as well. So these two guys are, it's really nothing really at stake here. These guys are definitely far from becoming number one contenders, but these guys are really trying to itch their way to become number one contender. Again, lightweight division is stacked. Lightweight division is dangerous. Lightweight division is, it's really, really tough to get ahead in there. Really, really is. It's one of the hardest divisions out there. So for these guys, I'm sure they really, really want to do their best to prove that they belong in the lightweight division. Now, as far as who's going to win, it's really hard to say. It really is hard to say. Moicano, he has the experience, I believe, just a little bit more than Jalen Turner does. He's been in there with some top dogs. Jalen Turner has as well, but I do feel Moicano, I do feel like he has just a little bit more edge on Jalen Turner. Even though Jalen Turner is definitely has the size advantage and the reach advantage. We saw that with Bobby Green. You saw he was able to knock him out, and we saw that back and forth war with Dan Hooker. So you definitely do not want to sleep on Jalen Turner. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting fight, but I do feel like Moicano might have the edge on this one just a little bit. Also on the card, you have the guy that was able to fight at UFC 100, the guy that was able to fight at UFC 200, the guy that's going to fight at UFC 300 now. He is Jim Miller taking on Bobby Green. We got some two old school guys here. We got some straight up back in the day guys here. These guys has been around the game for a long time, especially Jim Miller. I do believe, excuse me, I do believe he actually has that record right now of having the most fights in the UFC, and it's a very impressive record. A lot of guys they cannot take it. A lot of guys they end up leaving after a certain amount of time, but hey, he's still hanging in there. He is not fighting world beaters. He's not going against the creme of the lightweight division. I'm talking about Jim Miller, but he is definitely keeping busy, and he's definitely showing all these other young guys that hey, he could still be in there with some of the best of the world. As far as Bobby Green goes, again, he's another one. He was actually coming off some really good victories. He was able to come off a victory over Tony Ferguson. But again, we also mentioned that he had the unfortunate loss to Jalen Turner to stop his little momentum that he had going on there. But this is going to be a fun fight, guys. A little throwback fight. A fight for, I guess you could say, some old school type fight, where these guys came back from back in the days, the early 2000s, well, not early 2000s, but more of the mid 2000s. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this fight and see how it goes. It's very cool to see that Jim Miller, he's able to, still compete at UFC 300 after being the only fighter active today, being able to fight at UFC 100, 200, and now 300. Now, as far as who's going to win, I don't know. I personally feel like Bobby Green might have the edge on this one just a little bit. Bobby Green does have pretty good size, pretty good power. He definitely loves throwing his hands. But again, do not want to sleep on Jim Miller. Jim Miller has crazy wrestling and crazy jiu-jitsu. So I definitely, it's definitely going to be a very interesting matchup, for sure. As far as who's going to win, I do think Bobby Green just has the edge on him just a little bit. Now, also on the card, you have Jessica Andrade versus, I want to see, what is it, Marina Rodriguez. I know her last name is Rodriguez. Jessica Andrade finally coming off a 3-fight losing streak winning over Mackenzie Dern. So, we already know Jessica Andrade, former champion of the world, definitely was a beast in the division. But now things are a little bit tougher for her. She's fallen on a little bit of tough times here and there, but I'm sure she's definitely trying to do her best to get her winning streak back on. As far as Rodriguez is concerned, she's coming off a victory over Watterson. I believe it's Michelle Watterson. And she's trying to make a name for herself in the strawweight division. And what better way to do that than doing it against a former champion of the world in Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade, again, as tough as they come. She is one tough female fighter for sure. For sure. So you never want to sleep on her. But I do feel like Rodriguez might have the edge due to the fact that she does have the size. Because I believe Andrade stands around like 5'1" or something like that, where Rodriguez is a little bit taller. and is about 5'6", give or take. So I know sometimes size doesn't matter, but regarding this fight, I feel like it does just a little bit. Because I've seen Andrade struggle a little bit with much more stronger and taller female opponents that she's fought in the past. So I do feel like Rodriguez might get the victory on this one. Well, there you have it, guys. That's my UFC early prelims, early prelims breakdown of UFC 300. This is going to be more coming this way. I'm going to break down the prelims and I'm going to break down that main card. So, guys, definitely tune in, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and also let me know who you think is going to win in the fight card coming up at UFC 300. Let me know in the comments, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.